Hi everybody and welcome back to our poetry lessons. I'm really excited for the topic that we're talking about today, and we're going to be talking about form. So the form of a poem, it's not a form that you fill out, right, like a permission slip. It's the way that a poem looks on the page. So we're going to look at 4 of the poems that we have read. And I want you, in your pause and think today, to consider what you notice about how these poems look on the page. Maybe what makes these poems look similar on the page and what makes them look different. Okay, so I want you to pause and I want you to really think for about 30 to 60 seconds here, because in class, remember that this is where the magic happens, right? This is where all the learning happens. If you really think and take the time to process your thoughts as if you were really going to share them with a partner or be called on to share your answer with the class. So don't try to speed through this part just to get to the writing. I really want you to take your time and do this, okay? So go ahead and pause and reflect on these questions. So there's a lot of things that you might have noticed, but I'm going to highlight a couple of them. One thing that you might have noticed is that some poems have short lines, like over here in Lawnmower. In Lawnmower, there's lines that are only 2 or 3 words. Some poems, like over in Feeling Ill, have longer lines, right? Some of these have 5 and 6 lines, maybe even more, all the way over here. And then some poems have both, like in Lullaby and in Windy Nights. Some poems have just 3 words, while some have 5, or some have 4 over here. And, well, most of the ones in Windy Nights, it's between 4 and about 6, right? So you can have short lines, you can have long lines, you can have short and long lines together. Another thing that makes poems unique in the way that they look on the page are stanzas. Now, a stanza is a section that is separated by a space. So if you look over at Lawnmower, it has 3 stanzas, kind of like 3 chunks. If you notice, the ones that I'm circling in blue, there's a big space between those lines. So those are the 3 stanzas. Lullaby also has stanzas. So I want you to pause and think, and again, take your time to reflect here. What do you notice specifically about the stanzas in Lawnmower? Go ahead and pause. Some things that you might have noticed is that the poem has 3 stanzas, right? 1, 2, 3. Each stanza in this poem also has 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see those tiny little blue dots next to the lines. So in Lawnmower, the author decided to have 3 stanzas, and they decided to make these stanzas equal or even with how they look. You don't have to do that, right? You can have uneven stanzas too. So I'm looking at our Notes About Poems page, and we're just going to review really quick. We've talked about sensory details, we've talked about rhyming and not rhyming, we've talked about short lines or long lines, we've talked about poems being about anything, we've talked about personification, right? Giving something that's not alive or not a person some person-like qualities. And we've talked about repetition of beginning sounds, or alliteration, like having every letter of the lines start with the sound or the t sound, right? The things that we're going to add today are that some poems have short lines and some have longer lines, right? So they're not just short or just long. Some poems are broken into stanzas, and some poems have the same number of lines in each stanza, right? But not all of them.